Hello friends and welcome back into college football. Now it has been a little while since we've done a college football show, but I am Tom Downey, that is James Yoder. The AP poll is coming out here in a little bit, we'll get to it. But first, James, with college football finally back,
Week zero.
Yeah, week zero. Let's break down some Heisman Trophy power rankings. We'll go 10-1. Also, this is James's list, therefore I take no responsibility. At number 10, DeAndre Swift.
Such a cop-out, Tom.
It absolutely is.
I love DeAndre Swift. Just think, by the way, how good Georgia's backfield was a couple years back with Chubb and Swift and the other name I'm forgetting at the moment. But I think
Holyfield.
That's right. No, is it? Either way, Georgia's offense is one of the few now in college football that is still running basically a pro-style offense. One of the few teams in the perennial top 10, top 5 teams running a pro-style offense, and as such, DeAndre Swift is going to get a ton of carries this year, have the opportunity for a ton of yards, a ton of touchdowns in major games on the big bright stages, and that's where Heisman's are won. So that's why we've got him here at number 10.
I agree with Swift being in the top 10. He could very well be a first-round NFL draft pick. 163 carries last year, over 1,000 yards. I would assume the production goes up this year because the volume's going to go up as well with Elijah Holyfield now gone. Of course, UGA's got all kinds of great backs because they're Georgia, they recruit at the highest level, but I have pretty high expectations this year for Swift, James.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's got the problem like Clemson is going to have as well this year, where they've got multiple Heisman Trophy candidates in their backfield. So if he competes with Jake Fromm for some votes, maybe that hurts him down the stretch if he's one of the top 3, top 4 guys. But I think top 10 is where we need to be for him.
All right, number 9 then, Jalen Hurts, who is higher on the odds, which we'll get to in a second here. Can Oklahoma do a three-peat at Heisman, James, with transfer quarterbacks?
It would be the craziest thing of all time, right? Like Jalen Hurts being there. But I don't get this match as, I don't necessarily think it matches like Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield has, because he is not a kill-you-through-the-air guy like those guys have. He doesn't have a big-time first pick in the NFL draft arm like those two do. But I think Oklahoma's quarterback ultimately, in perpetuity, is on this list to start the year, no matter who it is, until it's proven otherwise. And Jalen Hurts has taken a team to the College Football National Championship. He has taken, been the highest highs for a freshman, for a sophomore, and then decided to transfer after last year with Tua taking his job. But if you're the Oklahoma quarterback with that kind of experience, you're going to be on this list. And until he proves otherwise, or Tom, there's a lot of rumors out there that Spencer Rattler, the true freshman, is giving him a run for his money, that he would take his starting job. We'll see how that plays out. But Jalen Hurts is probably the most proven guy on this list as far as doing it now for 4 years in college football at the highest levels.
Well, Hurts is 9th on our list, but he's actually 4th in the Heisman Trophy odds from our friends over at MyBookie. We will, of course, get to Tua and Trevor later on in the show. Jonathan Taylor, too. But, James, you're not sold on Justin Fields.
Well,
at least as much as you are on other players, for example.
Here's the deal, Tom. I definitely saw Fields last year as being kind of a fish out of water in Georgia's offense, and maybe that's why he's transferred. But you've heard so much about, hey, he wasn't going to be the guy at Georgia all in because he couldn't grasp the playbook, couldn't really understand what they were doing, guy who just kind of things broke down, couldn't find his man, just take off running. And in Ohio State's offense, you saw last year, it is much more set up for a guy who wants to throw the ball 45 times a game like Dwayne Haskins was than it is what Urban Meyer used to run, which is a more of a let the quarterback run 15 to 20 times a game. So I think Fields is a tad overrated with these odds. They are basically banking on his recruiting rankings and his head coach.
All right, then the next 5 in terms of the odds here, James. Adrian Martinez, who did also not crack our list. T. Higgins, who did not. We'll get to a different receiver, though, here in a little bit. Jake Fromm, who's coming up, Swift, and Justin Herbert. Any of those guys kind of jump out to you here?
I like Herbert for sure. I think Adrian Martinez is getting a lot more hype than more hype than I think his play in the field has certainly shown us as a guy who was on an under 500 team last year. Now you're banking on year 2 bump. You're also banking on the fact that his head coach is the kind of guy that can put the ball in his hands enough to get the Heisman Trophy love that he's getting from a lot of folks.
All right, guys. Again, this came from our friends over at MyBookie. So, James, why don't you tell them what we got going on here?
All right, Tom. College football now. Chat Sports, MyBookie, hooking you up for the college football season. Tom, you can bet on these Heisman Trophy odds. You can bet on over-unders, which we'll talk about once we get into the AP here momentarily. Chatsports.com/CFB, promo code CFB 2019. double your initial deposit up to $300. Get started now with MyBookie, jetsports.com/CFB, and you can get hooked up to bet on college football this weekend.
Number 8, and James, I like this one, Sam Bellinger out of Texas. I was surprised he wasn't in the top 10 of odds.
I love this one, Tom. I think Sam Bellinger is going to have a big-time year. I think they are primed. I mean, Texas last year, they lost Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game, but I think down the stretch, they were the one of the most impressive teams, and they just smoked Georgia. They smoked Georgia big time, and Bellinger is going to have the opportunity to be, the next big-time quarterback at the University of Texas. Colt McCoy, obviously Vince Young, now Sam Bellinger.
He's going to score 25 through the air last year. He had 16 rushing touchdowns as well because Texas's favorite play in the goal line was Sam Bellinger shotgun quarterback power dive.
For sure.
They love that play. I think you'll see that plenty again this year. And if Texas pushes for a championship, the quarterback's going to get the hype.
If you're going to have double-digit rushing touchdowns as a passing quarterback, you're going to have quite the year.
All right, number 7, and I like this pick. I think he's a good sleeper, James. Jerry Jeudy. He's something special, man.
Tom,
the
offensive coordinators have moved on from Alabama, and if they keep that same system, which they probably will, I think Jerry Jeudy's going to have one of the greatest years we've seen out of a wide receiver in a decade plus. I mean, last year he was the most dominant I've seen, maybe since Larry Fitzgerald back in 2004. Easily won the Blitnikoff, best wide receiver in the country coming back. If any wide receiver is going to break this almost 30-year wide receiver drought for winning the Heisman Trophy, I think it could be Jerry Jeudy.
I will mention a player comp. Of course, it's just style, not necessarily talent, but he plays like Odell Beckham a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. All right, some other dark horses that I put together, so blame me on this one. For example, me listing Jordan Love as a Houston player and not a Utah State player, so I'll fix that one. That's my bad. I've got Grant Delpit, De'Aaron King, who I figured you would like there, Jordan Love, Kellen Mond, and also Shea Patterson. I threw that one in there just for you, James.
Yeah, sure. Shea Patterson's going to have the opportunity to, like some of the other players we talked about, be on the big stage a lot. But is he going to get enough pass attempts through the air to be even close statistically to some of these other quarterbacks we're about to touch?
So I mentioned Grant Delpit. He is your nominee this year for defensive player for Heisman. But James, will a defensive player ever win it again?
Tom, clearly you've seen if a defensive player is ever going to win it again, it's got to be a defensive back from Michigan because we saw with Jabril Peppers a few years ago. That plays on special teams. That's your punt returner. Other than that, no. So if Michigan gets a defensive back to play on offense and special teams, maybe.
All right, number 6 then, that is Justin Herbert out of Oregon. At some point, ESPN and Oregon's own website will put up a photo that isn't from Justin Herbert's first day on campus. There you go. Herbert at 6 there, James. He has to be more accurate.
For sure. I mean, he was surprising coming back, Tom. Big year for him last year. They're not going to do the Times Square billboard like they did back in the day. Who was that in 2001? The quarterback,
Joe Harrington.
Joe Harrington. But he's going to be getting a lot of love. He's a household name at this point, starting and playing for as many years that he has. So big NFL arm. We'll see what he does as a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Travis Etienne out of Clemson. He's got speed. He played great at Clemson last year.
Was this the guy, Tom, last year that every time we looked up he had 3 or 4 touchdowns running?
Yes,
because,
on 8 carries.
Yeah, 8 carries because they just gave him the ball every time inside the 5. But 1,700 yards nearly last year, but 24 touchdowns. Look at those stats like there. Those are Heisman Trophy stats for a running back. If you add a little bit of the passing game from him, you're going to see a potential Heisman Trophy season from Travis Etienne.
All right, guys, if you like our college football coverage, make sure you are subscribed. And also, make sure you watch and share. Speak with your views so the bosses here will allow us to do more college football stuff.
Link is below. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure to follow us on YouTube as well, youtube.com/chatsportstv.
Let's move then to number 4. That is Jake Fromm out of Georgia from State Farm. Fun fact, by the way.
Very, very fun fact.
I make my bad jokes, guys. Get used to it.
Yeah, Tom, not the stats you're going to expect. He certainly didn't have the stats that Tua did last year or Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield did a couple years ago. Nowhere in the stratosphere of Dwayne Haskins, but he's playing for a top 3 team. He is a household name now at this point, leading into a national championship game as a freshman, SEC championship game as a sophomore. So if they go 12-0, making the SEC title game, he'll be right there. He'll be certainly in the top 5.
He has to have more yards, though.
For sure.
It's a stat-based thing. They have
near.
to let him air it out more.
For sure.
All right, number 3 then, and James, I like that you put Jonathan Taylor so high because I think he is flying under the radar when he really should not be.
Because he came out like gangbusters in 2017, led Wisconsin to a Big Ten championship game appearance, and they were in the top 5, top 10 the entire year, Tom. But his stats are borderline insane at this point. if he stays for his senior year in 2021, Tom, he will break the all-time college football rushing record for a career, like in Game 7 or something like that. He was just going to obliterate it through 2 seasons. We've never seen anything like him in the history of college football.
So who is your Heisman Trophy sleeper? Let us know in the comments section. James, who do you have in mind?
You know, it's tough to say. I want to say like a Shea Patterson or someone like that.
I think Taylor qualifies based on the odds at least.
For sure, yeah. I mean, he's top 3 in our odds, but nowhere near that in the betting odds. Maybe that's because Wisconsin doesn't get the national love. But maybe I'll throw out an Adrian Martinez. He is a true sleeper in the aspect of we don't know what to expect from Nebraska this year. They started playing decent down the stretch last year, and the games they got blown out early were some of the ones that he didn't play or was injured in. So we'll see what happens out of him.
We had Taylor at number 3. We'll stick with our theme of teas at number 2. It is Tua, James.
Tua Tagovailoa, Tom.
Nicely done.
A man who came on in the second half and won Alabama national title game a couple years back. I regret to say I put big money on him to win the Heisman the week before the SEC championship game last year when he kind of got hurt and then had to have his backup come back and win the game. But the biggest upset in Heisman of my lifetime was him not winning the Heisman last year. He was 10-1 odds, 1 to 10 odds to win it, basically. It was such a sure thing a week before the Heisman Trophy was announced that you'd have put up $100 to win 10. But his stats last year, Tom, and he played in 3.5 quarters in most games, or 2.5 quarters in most games, the middle of the third, were out of this world for the time he was on the field. If he is on the field more than that this year, if they don't blow out everybody by scoring 42 in the first half, you could see him with 55 touchdowns passing.
All right, you guys probably figured it out by now, but at number 1, shout out RQ3 who had it there, Trevor Lawrence at number 1. You know me, James. Last year I was kind of like, let's pump the brakes just a little bit on Trevor. And then he comes out and obliterates Alabama in the national championship game. I'm all in on him. He should be number 1.
And look at these stats as a true freshman. Mind you, he wasn't the starter until their 5th game of the season, Tom. So 65% completion, that's good, not phenomenal in college football. That's about, decent for a college football quarterback. But as a true freshman, Tom, 30 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. That is
many mistakes.
Out of this world. And you saw him in the national title game against an Alabama defense that some people are calling, one of the greatest ever. They may have, 8 first-round draft picks on it over 2 or 3 drafts. He made them look like a JV team. He tore them up all across the field. So I think it's Trevor versus Tua this year, 100%. You look at their stats, certainly Tua had the statistical edge as a true sophomore last year versus Trevor Lawrence's true freshman campaign. But both guys are going to be starting as Heisman Trophy favorites from the start of the year. I actually think there'll be a little rivalry between their 2 coaches, of course, to see who's going to win the Heisman here. And for what I'm looking at now, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to just, he's going to be so good this year. He will be as much of a favorite by mid-November as we thought Tua was last year.
So who's the better quarterback then, James? I assume you're picking Trevor here versus Tua?
Without question. I think Trevor is a lot better quarterback. And anyone saying tanking for Tua, you just need to delay that one more year. You
got to tank for 2 years for Trevor or lose for Lawrence. Make sure that you get those extra picks, too.
For sure. Yeah. Tom, any chance, I think it's a question that'll start creeping up throughout the college football season. Any chance Trevor Lawrence sits out 2020 season?
I would be a little bit surprised. I also wouldn't necessarily hate it because he's a great prospect. Or it's not like he needs those extra reps. He doesn't strike me as that type of player, though.
Same. We met him at the college football playoff. Doesn't seem like that kind of guy. But the question now is out, Tom. Make your prediction before we go to the AP poll, which is just moments away now. Who will win the Heisman Trophy? Tom, give me your pick.
It's a easy answer, but it's also the obvious one. Trevor Lawrence for me.
I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence, too. Want to know from you guys. Comment below who will win the Heisman Trophy this year.